I did grow up in Poland under communism. My family and I fled for safety, arriving in the U.S., not speaking a word of English, and not, this was in the 80s, so not having a reference. There was no internet in terms of what to expect. And, I was told we're going there for freedom. And what does freedom look like to, a 12, 13-year-old? Like, you want friends and you want acceptance and you want to be, recognized, validated, loved by your peers. And here I was, a complete foreigner standing on the outside looking in. And I think that was so painful that for me, not understanding it at the time, but now knowing, looking back, this is sort of where the pursuit started, right? There was the pain was so deep and the loneliness was so severe. And then the darkness that came with it, that I said, this is unacceptable. And how did I cope with it? And that's what I call the becoming, right? And so I developed the skill of, assessing sort of like, what game are we playing here? Like, what's the battlefield? And what do I need to do to survive? Your typical survival story. Like, how do I get in there? How do I make this work? And so I became almost like a chameleon. And it was a beautiful thing that served me at the time and still serves me sometimes today. But in that, watching what everyone around me was doing and copying it and then actually competing to do it quicker and better, it kind of became my MO, right? Like, that's how I operated in the world. It's who I was. I was this warrior. I was this fighter. I was this tough girl that I could do anything. And, I can do anything is a beautiful belief, but not when it's fueled by old pain and trauma and hurt. And so, I, put myself through school. I learned the language. I mastered the culture. I got married. I had 2 beautiful children. And my husband and I started a company. And this was life, this constant, what's everyone doing? How are they doing it? How can I do it better? Chasing, achieving, succeeding, because that's what got me validation. That's what felt like love to me, right? And at our core, really, that's what we're looking for, right? Is how to feel loved, how to feel good, how to belong. And it worked for a long time, and it brought me to some beautiful places in my career and in my life. Until at 39, we had just moved to Paris, France, which was a dream of mine. We sold our company. And finding myself, again, the foreigner, but now losing that title of entrepreneur, COO, founder, and also, not working created a lot more space in my calendar. So things started to move slightly slower. So like that race that I had been calling life had significantly slowed down, and slowly my body started to completely freak out because this way of functioning was shocking. Like, I'm the one that's constantly running, constantly juggling 17 things at the same time, and controlling chaos, right? Like, I'm a great consultant for those things. I can come in and tell you what the problem is and how to fix it. Like, it's that was just who I was. My work was who I was. How I performed in all the roles in life was the identity. And I was so over-identified with all the masks that I wore, not understanding at the time that it was at that moment at 12 years old that I decided that who I was on the inside was just not good enough, that it had to be masked, that it had to be repressed. So the only way for me to find acceptance was to kind of erase any foreignness, right? Like, erase anything that made me different from others. And so, but in doing that, I completely disconnected from my true essence, who I was at the core of my being. So of course, when, the external world tells me you've made it, like, there you are, you're 39, you're financially secure for the rest of your life. You're retired. Wow. The company, look at your family, look at your life. Like, and from the outside, it was perfect. Mm-hmm. But on the inside, it was unsettling. And I felt so guilty about that. I felt such shame over the fact, and everyone's like, you must be like so happy. And there was something that was missing. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And so I stayed busy. I volunteered. I mommed real hard. I set up a new place in Paris. Like, I figured out how to learn the language. And then about a year later, I suffered this massive panic attack. And at the time, we weren't talking about that so openly. We were not discussing it. We were not talking about mental health. This was a decade ago. And I for sure thought it was a heart attack, that it was dying. My days were limited. I was diagnosed with a serious heart condition. Depression came. It was the 6 to 9 months of daily panic attacks, which each time I thought was, this is it. This is the moment. This is where my life ends. And it was just, I found myself this brave, strong, courageous warrior woman that I became in the space of complete lostness, darkness, fear, and terror, and with no guidance really as to what was happening. I wasn't surrounded by people that were talking about, hey, how about the inner life? How about the soul? And like and so I set out on this journey really to help myself. You know, it wasn't anything honorable or extraordinary at the time. I just wanted to feel better. I was suffering profoundly, and I felt like it was impacting my family and my marriage and just my life. And that was the moment that my life completely shifted, and the focus became, well, who am I? What is this life that I'm living about? Like it, and that sent me, you know, what now we can say, looking back on the journey inward, and it was really a search for myself.